We all heard a gunshot, and immediately we kind of looked at each other, kind of like, is that what we thought we heard? The first thing that went through my mind was everybody in the store being safe. There's a guy lying on the ground. Our first thought was, is help going to get here in time, right? And it turned out that it didn't.
Bradley Coleman, he was a father, a business owner, and a friend to all. He also coached kids in the community.
Bradley's death was not in vain.
A somber mood fills Lillian Webb Park.
To make this a great celebration.
As friends, family, and teammates who knew Bradley Coleman gather unexpectedly.
Bradley always stood out as a young, quiet man, a purposeful man, young man, and loved by all. And that is not just a casual statement.
He loved his daughter, he loved his community, he loved kids, he loved coaching kids, and he was just a great kid, great role model for the kids.
These people are mourning their loss together as they grapple with the reality of a promising young life ended by gun violence.
Bradley Coleman was filling up his car's tires on July 10th just after noon at the QT gas station near Peachtree Corner Circle and Peachtree Parkway. It would be the final thing he'd ever do. Gwinnett County Police say he was shot and killed in a carjacking attempt gone wrong. 20-year-old David Booker is the person investigators say pulled the trigger. It took police nearly 2 weeks to make the arrest. Surveillance video from the QT was key for investigators.
David Booker showed little emotion as he sat here inside a courtroom here at the Gwinnett County Jail. The victim, Brad Coleman, was shot in the head in front of multiple witnesses in the middle of the day.
20-year-old David Booker glancing over at our cameras in court just 2 days after Gwinnett County Police took him into custody. Friday morning, he went before a magistrate judge.
Sir, you have 2 felony charges. Do you know what those are?
Felony murder and aggravated assault charges.
Police say another car with 3 people came up next to Coleman's, and that's when someone got into his car and they got into a fight while he was filling up his tires. Detectives then say Booker shot Coleman and the car took off. A seemingly random crime. Bradley was a beloved teacher and coach in New Orleans and was in town visiting family when he was murdered.
Tonight, a second person is in police custody in connection to the shooting death of a young father at a quick trip in Gwinnett County. 20-year-old David Booker has been identified as the alleged shooter. He's been in custody now for 2 weeks. And we are now learning a second man identified as Miles Collins is also in custody. Both men are charged with felony murder and aggravated assault.
Just coming into the newsroom, police making a third arrest in the murder of a local father and football coach. This is our very first look at the mugshot of 20-year-old Josiah Hughley. He is the third and final suspect arrested in the death of 29-year-old Bradley Coleman.
Now, the trial for the suspects in the death of 29-year-old Bradley Coleman is now underway. Their lawyers heard from potential jurors in a Gwinnett County courtroom Monday afternoon. This is a moment people who loved the teacher, father, and coach have waited for.
Gwinnett County District Attorney says it is planning to retry the murder of this Metro Atlanta father, Bradley Coleman. Less than 24 hours ago, a judge declared a mistrial. 3 men were on trial in this case, and it just started last week.
So this decision came after a line of questioning involving one of the defendant's ex-girlfriend. Listen.
That statement was, Miles' friend did a felony murder.
It was that moment right there that brought this whole thing down. The state was questioning conversations the woman had with her mother. The defense objected, saying the line of questioning was leading. The judge then declared a mistrial.
Well, tonight we are also keeping a close eye on a retrial out of Gwinnett County. The defendants in this case are accused of killing a beloved coach and father during an attempted carjacking back in July of 2022.
Josiah Hughley, Miles Collins, and David Gerard Booker faced multiple charges, including murder, carjacking, aggravated assault, and gang-related offenses. Prosecutors say Hughley killed Coleman, saying the 3 were prepared to kill, adding Booker and Collins helped with the attempted theft and getaway. The defense attorney for Hughley asked the jury to return a verdict of voluntary manslaughter, not murder. As for the other 2 suspects, their attorneys claim they are not guilty of the charges. Now, this is the second time the 3 have gone before a jury. Their first trial in 2023 ended in mistrial, which the Gwinnett County DA's office blamed on a technical issue. Now, the state also argues that the men's actions were part of a gang-related scheme.
Yo, 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 what's up, people? We is back. Another day on Keep It G News. And they always in Gwinnett County. Atlanta, Georgia area, y'all, to talk about a case that I think a lot of people should see, especially if you currently have a child that's involved in street activity. You know, because right now we dealing with an uprising senseless crime, an uprising car theft. And although, y'all, murder wasn't the objective for that day, what you're going to find out is Josiah Hughley, David Booker, and Miles Turner, that's what they did. And they're going to have to live with their decision making. Because that's the thing, y'all. Once you make these decisions, under rare circumstances, do you get a chance to, give it back? Under rare circumstances, do you get another shot at life? You understand what I'm saying? So in this video, y'all, we're going to go through the case. I took y'all through the preliminary stages of the case. I took y'all through when Bradley Coleman first got killed to how his family in the neighborhood felt afterwards. This was a guy that was an upstanding member of society. He was from Louisiana, played college football, I think at Southern University. I could be wrong. Y'all know I ain't really good with names like that. But he went to Georgia area because he wanted to visit family members, and he stopped at a gas station. And that's when the guys come along, Josiah Hughley, David Booker, and Miles Turner pull up, and it's all on video, y'all. I'm gonna show y'all how it happened, how fast you gotta be able to make decisions, because one bad decision can cost your life, and it go either way. But I took y'all through the arrest. I took y'all through the first original trial, what ended in mistrial. But of course, in these type of situations, y'all, the state is not willing to back down, especially when trial was deemed a mistrial for something so minor. Or, I ain't gonna call it minor, but it wasn't an evidentiary reason as to why this case ended in mistrial. Like, it's not like Melly case where they ran it all through the court system and the jury couldn't decide on guilt or not guilty. This trial never reached the jury. So of course, the city of Atlanta and the state of Georgia is going to try it again. And in this video, we're going to go through that process. And the way we got to start that off, y'all, is we got to go to the opening statements between the prosecution and the defense. And you're going to listen to the first round of witnesses' testimony and what they had to say about this situation.
Bradley Coleman, 29 years old, Josiah 30. He was a teacher. He was a coach. He was a beloved friend. He was the father of a beautiful 4-year-old girl. And he's the son of Mr. and Mrs. Coleman, who are sitting right here. July 10th, 2022, the last face that he saw was his. The last thing that he felt was a bullet. Went through bone, brain, came out of his neck. The last breath that he took, choking on his own blood. Why? Because they wanted a car. July 10th, 2022, just a little bit past noon, at the QT gas station at Peachtree Court. Mr. Coleman took his Dodge Charger, pulled up to put air in his tire. The defendants, who were gang members, backed in right beside him. While Mr. Coleman was down, his rear tire putting it in, this man, Josiah Hughley, got out of the car and went into Mr. Coleman's car. What he didn't know was that another car had pulled up right behind him in order to put air in his tire. Josiah backed out, he hit that car. That gave Mr. Coleman time to get up, open the passenger side, and grab Mr. Hughley. Mr. Hughley dragged him out of the car, and during the struggle, put a gun to his head, shot and killed Bradley Coleman. While that was going on, this man, David Booker, jumped out of the other car that brought them there, came up with a gun to provide support. When the gunshot went down, they fled in the car driven by this man, Mr. Collins. Here's what it looks like.
211 can turn into a 187 very fast. And I've also been on record and told y'all about these carjackings and how much time you can actually get because everybody not willing to go. Everybody, even though the best thing to do is give it up. It's only possessions, it's only material things, you can get it back. Your life, once it's over, is over. But everybody is not willing to just give it up like that. Some people is willing to put up a fight. And you can debate whether they right or wrong. I just think it's up to how you feel in that situation. You know, everybody's situation is different. And sometimes it might be best to fight. You know, sometimes it might be best to give it up. But it's subjective to the situation. But in this case, y'all, we talking about 3 guys, young kids, arrested for murder of a guy by the name of Bradley Coleman. And when this happened, you know, this was only supposed to be a simple carjacking. I don't think they came into the situation with the intent of murder. But what you're going to find out in this video, that's exactly what it led at.
Mr. Coleman's car. The defendants. That it was these 3. Because what the evidence is going to show you is that Josiah Hughley was the shooter, that David Booker provided armed support, and that Miles Collins drove them to the QT and away from the QT. The evidence is also going to show that these 2 members are part of the 9 Trey Bloods, a violent gang that is known for stealing cars, as well as sex, money, murder. How are we going to show that? Because you're going to see the gang evidence that ties these defendants to those violent gangs. You will see the gang evidence of David Booker, where he proudly proclaims 9 Trey Bloods, also known as Billy Badass. You're going to see other social media posts proudly proclaiming 9 Trey gangsters.
Fuck me out your feelings. Get 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 out your feelings.
Okay, trying to keep up on them folks.
Niggas young pocket, so they start me. I sit back, watch them niggas pop up, baby, Drew remain the same. Some niggas mad, I got a chain, but fuck this thing lame. Mama, I ain't have a dime on me, I can break the pain. Barrel busting out my pocket, only me no wallet. Put it on my turn, the light on me, so I can find it. Pipe and brother said I'm hard, it made me smile. Now I'm feeling cocky. When I get them ends, I'm putting M and all I need. I got 4 wheels, nigga, you know the cross of life. Can't bring back my dog, but I can trust to kill it and make it right. I got some murderers. I'm not shit, this shit up like I'm about you. Once I'm like, I been shit around my nigga. Running my lips on my chest with a strip. I busted bitch and got smacked. So my chest with a stick, I wrote it.
You'll see the significance of the tattoos, including the ones not hidden behind bow ties or shirts that zipped up. You're going to see it for David Booker, you're gonna see Miles Collins.
Billy gang shit. Yeah, real Billy gang shit. But get what? I never get them street laws. Nigga, mind your business, get money, and shut the fuck up. Facts, nigga. What the fuck you talking about?
You're gonna see the gang evidence of Josiah Hughley, the shooter, all over his body, and the hand signs, proudly proclaiming on social media his membership in a violent and deadly gang. You're going to see other evidence too, that among the crimes of 9 Trey Bloods and 6 Money murder, they steal cars.
But their attorneys say there's a lack of evidence.
There's no witness that's going to come here that was at the QT at the time that's going to point and say, I saw David Booker.
If they ever saw Josiah with a gun.
My client, Miles Collins, had nothing to do with the actual shooting.
After hearing from 2 witnesses,
I saw a shooting take place and Mr. Coleman fall in the parking lot.
I heard a gunshot go off.
the state wrapped up the day with Gwinnett County police officers, crime scene investigators, and the medical examiner walking the jury through the crime scene.
Black male laying on the ground, face down in a pool of blood.
That day still fresh for Coleman's family.
Your son did not survive the gunshot.
The reason why I think this video is important, y'all, and I needed to do this is because this is what we're dealing with right now, currently, today, with the youth in the black community. The youth in other communities as well, but we want to stick to the black community. Where you got these kids that post everything online. They want to be a part of these gangs. They want to be gangsters. But what you ready to see, and that's prison time, because ultimately all three of these guys was found guilty and sentenced to a crazy amount of years. But this is where it leads to. It leads to death. It leads to years in prison, maybe even life in prison in certain situations. And they play around with it like it's not real. And you heard them opening statements, and I think the opening statements always need to be played because, to me, I can tell based off the opening statements a lot of times what direction the state is going to go versus the defense. And you could say, man, based off the arguments, I think the prosecution have a better case than the defense attorneys. And one of the defense attorneys, you're going to find out, her client made a statement. And you probably can figure that out based off the video I just played for y'all, because they're not questioning whether guilt or innocence, because he admitted that he did it. What they're questioning is, did he have reason to? You know, was it self-defense in a way? Which is crazy to put yourself in a situation where you're actively trying to take from somebody else and then think you're going to get a self-defense defense, or think that just because you admitted to it and you accepted accountability that the court is going to be lenient on you. Negative, not happening. But that goes into the undeveloped mind of the young 21-year-old and under and 23-year-old. You understand? It goes to the undevelopment of their mind because they think that, well, I know they got me, but I can still wiggle my way out of this. And a lot of times you can't. You won't. Especially when somebody loses their life. But those are the opening statements. And I told y'all, Josiah Hughley gave an account of the whole situation. And y'all found out he was actually the last one to get arrested. So I don't know what statements the other guys made. Like I said, this is a long trial. It lasted for weeks. So we're trying to wrap this all up in one video. So we're going to breeze through it. But what we did was picked out some of the most important factors throughout the whole trial that you can kind of pretty much get an understanding of what actually went down. But Josiah Hughley, like I said, who was the last person to get caught, gave a statement. When homicide detectives ran down on this kid, you're going to find out that he actually was trying to get a job. He actually was working a job, which is crazy. But that goes into what I say about today's society where they want to be it all. They want to be the gangster. They want to be the robber. They want to sell drugs. They want to rap. And they want to raise their children. But you can't do them all. You cannot do them all. You got to pick a lane and stay in it. If you want to be a gangster, like I told you in the previous video, be a gangster all the way into the graveyard, all the way into the prison. But you can't be a gangster and want to sell drugs because now you outside amongst the hustlers. And your gangster ways or your gangster actions, they might gotta suffer the consequences because you want to be a gangster when they just trying to get some money. It's crazy, but that's what we're dealing with in today's society. But Josiah Hughley gave an account of everything that happened. But in his mind, he thought that he was going to benefit. And I want y'all to see how homicide detectives was playing with him. Like, yeah, we understand what you're saying.
Detective Harrison, Detective Dorstad. How's it going? I know out in the parking lot you were asking a little bit as far as what's going on, why you're here, if you're detained or under arrest and all that. So we'll get into all that. I do need to talk to you about a case that I'm investigating. That's why you're here, so we'll get into the specifics and all that. But just before we do any of that, I just got to verify some of your information, your name, phone number, address, all that stuff. And then if you want to talk to me about that, find out what's going on, we'll just go ahead and roll into that, okay? All right? Just to confirm your last name, am I pronouncing that right? Is it Hughley?
Hughley, the G side. Hughley.
Okay, Hughley. Okay,
Hughley. Like the Hughley.
Gotcha. And your first name is Josiah, okay. You have a middle name?
No.
Okay. What's your date of birth?
March 23rd, 2002.
And what's your current address?
2869 Field Spring Drive, Gathering, Georgia, 30058.
You live there by yourself or with other people?
With my dad, stepdad, and sisters.
Okay, how long have you lived there?
Since 2019.
Okay, so you've been there for a few years. What's your phone number? You got a cell phone?
Yes. 470-886-5190.
Okay, and that's your cell phone?
Yes.
Okay, do you work?
Yeah, well, actually, I'm coming out of my interview, and they just arrested me.
Okay, where was that at? Where was the interview?
On my construction site. CTS, traffic control.
How'd the interview go?
I got the job.
Did you? Nice, good for you.
Yeah.
What kind of construction is it?
It's like, you know, the ones that put the slow signs up, the go.
Oh, the road stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. Were you working anywhere before that?
Yeah, I just recently left a job because they relocated and it was too far. That's why I was going over there. I was working at a warehouse called Home Shelf.
Home Shelf. Like home goods kind of stuff?
Yeah, like we package Kroger goods and stuff.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Well, like I said, we'll go ahead and we'll talk about why you're here. I can explain everything. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in court. You have the right to talk to a lawyer for advice before we ask you any questions, and to have a lawyer with you during questioning. If you cannot afford a lawyer, one will be appointed for you before any questioning if you wish. If you decide to answer questions now without a lawyer present, you will still have the right to stop answering at any time. You also have the right to stop answering at any time until you talk to a lawyer. You understand each of these rights I explained to you? All right, man. Have these rights in mind. You want to talk to us?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I know you briefly said you applied for a job, you went and interviewed for a job this morning, and then some police officers came and took you into custody out there right after you got out of the interview, and that was at CTS Traffic Control. Is that right? And then before that, you were working at Home Shelf, and you said it's a warehouse, like package stuff for Kroger and grocery stores and stuff like that. How long did you work there?
I worked there for like 4 or 5 months.
Okay. What's his name? Your friend that his dad's got the company?
His name is Tayon.
Tayon? Okay. All right. When's the last time you saw a family? They deserve it. Think about them. If you can't get past how it affects you, think about them. Think about that little girl.
It's just like I got in the car, and when I seen him get up, I tried to get out the car. But by the time when I got in the car, I seen his gun on the passenger seat. So, of course, my first instinct is I'm thinking he's gonna go for his gun, but he started grabbing me and hitting me. I didn't hit him back not one time. My whole thing was I was trying to get out the car. I was trying to leave it alone. I even told him during the middle of the incident, I'm telling him out my mouth, I put this on my child, my grandma life, on everything I love. I'm telling him, I'll say, okay, get off me. I'm finna get out your car. I'm like, get off me, I'm finna get out your car. You got it, my bad. he's still just doing the most. It's just like, I don't know how he pushed me out the car. When he pushed me out the car, we fell. He tried to grab his gun, like I knew he was reaching for, like, when his gun went for, I knew he was going for, like, he was going for his gun. So I'm like, okay, when he grabbed his gun, he's finna shoot me. Even though I told him, like, I know he's finna shoot me. And then, that's how it happened.
So what happened at that point? You dropped the gun on the ground?
The gun was, I think the gun was in his hand when we failed to drop inside the car.
When you got out of the car, what happened at that point?
The gun was on the floor when we got out of the car.
Which gun?
His gun.
Where was your gun?
In my pants.
Okay.
I never pulled it out. That's the whole point. That's why I could have pulled the gun out inside the car and shot him or something like that. I wasn't trying to touch that, man. I wasn't trying to do nothing like that.
I know that. I believe you. I mean, the video, I believe you. You're telling the truth about that. The video confirms it. But I'm just, so his gun was on the floor.
At what point did you put it in your hand? His gun? Yeah. When I was leaving the scene.
So did you shot him with your gun and then you took his gun after that? Is that right?
It's like, yeah.
So once he pushed you out of the car, his gun was on the floor of the car at that point, but y'all, okay, I'm sorry.
He was never on the floor. He was in the passenger seat the whole time. He had it on the passenger seat the whole time. He was in the passenger seat while he was fucking had it. So I seen it. I didn't even touch it. But when he got up, he jumped in the car. He started hitting me, beating me up. And I'm telling him, like, you know, I'm leaving. You got it, bro. I'm not wrong. I was trying to do the right thing at the time. Like, I was trying to leave it alone. If I was really just cold-blooded, or I would have, as soon as he put his hands on me, I would have pulled my gun out, shot him, or do anything. That wasn't how it was supposed to go. The only reason the stuff happened because I was in fear.
Okay.
I was in fear because I know he got a gun. And I'm thinking, like, I know, like, I've seen incidents like this before, like, it's one of those situations where it's like, I hate to say it like this, it was one of those situations where it's like, it's either you or him, like, but at the same time, the way it happened, it still wasn't supposed to happen like that. Death was not even supposed to be the outcome at all. Like, we know, man. Maybe an aggravated assault or something, but death, like, it's just like the way it happened. The movements, it happened so fast, like.
So what happened? So he pushed you out of the car, and then walk me through what happened.
We both fell on the floor. Both of us fell on the floor. When I seen him, like, okay. So when we fell on the floor, I was about to run back to the car, but I seen him going for his gun. So I was just like, boom. I was like, I seen him go for his gun. And I just pulled the gun out. But the way his was not supposed to, like, he wasn't supposed to get hit in the head or, like, wherever he got hit at, he got hit in the head.
So you're saying you shot it, but you weren't meaning to shoot him in the head? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Like, he was moving towards his gun. Like,
where was the gun at that point?
On the floor. It was still on the floor.
In the car?
No, on the ground. In front of us. You're
saying the floor of the car. I got you. That's why I was confused. Okay.
You reaching for your gun, like you were moving, but it's just like I ain't in his head. I ain't even do nothing like that. I ain't want to kill him, man. If anything, I would not want to kill him. Like, it don't take to kill somebody to get away from something like that. Like, I know that it's just everything just fell out of place.
So let me tell you this. First of all, you're doing the right thing here. Like I said, you really are. What you just said confirms what we already know in terms of that this was not supposed to go that way. And if nothing else, it's important to get that out. I do need to just clarify a few things just to make sure that we understand, what all happened. So after you shot him, you ran back to the car, and then you took his gun, right? What did you do with his gun and your gun?
I threw him somewhere in a sewer.
In a sewer? Where was that at? Do you remember?
I don't remember the exact street. I don't remember. I just know it was on the east side.
East side of Atlanta or DeKalb?
Like DeKalb.
You have any idea where that was? Was it near like a business? Can you think of a business that you were near? Something to help?
I can't remember.
All right, so just kind of walk me through this, and this, I already know a lot of this, but it just helps to have the clear picture as far as what happened. So you shot him, you went back to the car, you grabbed his guns, got the Mercedes. I know you went back to DeKalb, you went to the apartment complex. I know that after y'all got there that you went back to your house, but just, it needs to be explained. How did you get back to your house? Did they go to the apartment and then you got, how did you get back to your house?
I caught a bus to my house.
You caught a bus from the apartment complex or near the apartment complex?
I think I was at the store when I caught the bus. I was leaving the store. I went and got me something to drink.
Okay. You still have the gun?
And see, y'all, this is why I tie these crimes directly to the drill music and the drill culture, because Shorty seemed like he was a good kid. At least he knows how to be a good kid when the pressure is on. Talk well and everything. Now you got Josiah Hughley, who was coming from a job interview. They actually locked him up where he got the job, Sad reality is he's never going to get a chance to start it because he got no bail. And he had to sit throughout this whole trial process. And in his mind, he thought that, I know they got me, but if I be upright about everything that happened, maybe I'm going to get some type of deal. Maybe they're going to look out for me on the back end. But in reality, he's a rat. He would be considered a snitch in this situation. And even with him snitching, it never helped him. I don't know what made him think that you can go rob somebody or attempt to rob somebody, end up killing them, and then try to flip it on that person and say, oh, no, he was trying to grab a gun, but that's the ignorance of the youth. In his mind, he thought that was an adequate defense, that the prosecution or the homicide detectives really was going to give him some type of leniency because of what he said, and they wasn't. They all was planning for information. They didn't really give a fuck about anything that he had to say outside of, I did it. All the other conversation that the detectives engaged in with Josiah Hughley was utter nonsense. They was just listening and responding. They been had what they wanted from him. Now, that was an edited version. We don't know what else was said. That's what was played in court. Like I said, we trying to go through the whole trial. We try and do it with limited time. So I'm just want to show y'all, the opening statements, the closing statements, key testimony that happened during trial. Now, I'm sure y'all there's a lot of witness testimony that we did not cover. I'm almost certain. But this is the abbreviated version of the trial. Like I said, it's a lot of videos. The whole trial was documented on YouTube. But I wanted to take out the key points so y'all can see what we dealing with. And for the young generation to see, this is the results of being a gangster. I went through it in my own life. Now, luckily, I was one of the ones that got a chance to get a second opportunity and didn't have to tell to do it. But those are rare circumstances. 9 times out of 10, once you get in this type of situation, your life is going to end up just like David Booker's, Josiah Hughley, and Miles, whatever his last name is. Y'all know I'm bad with names. But here you have, after all the testimony, after the prosecution lay out their case, the defense lay out their case, you got the closing arguments.
I didn't mean for it to go down like that.
Powerful words inside the courtroom as prosecutors try to prove 3 men are responsible for the death of a Gwinnett County coach. The prosecution argues David Booker, Josiah Hughley, and Miles Collins are all connected to the death of Bradley Coleman and that it was gang-related, with Hughley being the alleged gunman.
The road offense. The road offense is I wasn't there. I didn't do it. I was defending myself. Not, you didn't prove it.
After hearing from more than 20 of the prosecution's witnesses, the defense attorneys for the 3 men argued their points. In the case of Booker and Collins, attorneys say there's not enough evidence against their clients to prove they're in a gang or are tied to the murder. Booker's attorney claims prosecutors made this a gang-related conspiracy because that's the only way to convict Booker and Collins.
If the prosecutor can convince you that he's a bad person, it may not matter that there was only one shot from one gun, from one person, which Josiah Hughley's already said, it was me.
I can't tell you where Mr. Collins might fall into a particular gang. I can't tell you what role he might have assumed in a gang. There has been no testimony whatsoever about when he became a member of a gang.
Meanwhile, Hughley's attorneys had to convince jurors to only hold her client responsible for trying to do what he allegedly thought would just be a slighter crime that went wrong, and that Hughley only meant to rob Coleman.
But in this particular case, knowledge is important for Josiah because there was no knowledge that this was going to be anything other than a slighter crime. No idea that a gun was going to be pulled. No idea that he was going to end up shooting someone.
The truth of the matter is, you're guilty by association. Now, I know the court isn't supposed to weigh the evidence that way, but that's what they do every day in every single court across the United States of America. When the actions of one of the guys falls on the actions of everybody. Because once they decided that it was a good idea to go rob, then anything that happened after that, even if it was one person decision, even though if it was one gun fired, that falls on everybody. And it just so happens in this situation, the shooter is the one that was telling. How ironic is that? How many times have we seen that where the guy that's more culpable than others is the guy that's folding on everybody? It's crazy. We seen it with YSL trial and Lil Woody, where if you let them tell it, he was the most active out of them all, at least from what we got in that trial. But he was the main one implicating everybody in crimes. But his situation isn't like this situation because these guys, these young kids, is not going to be able to scram from up under this. They're going to have to stand on their decision making. They wanted to go rob. I told y'all what robbing can lead to. They failed to recognize what robbing can lead to. All they had was a plan A, never had a plan B, and you see what happened. Rest in peace to Bradley Coleman, and I want to send my love and condolences to his family because this was unnecessary, uncalled for. And y'all heard the defense arguments as to the evidence. They didn't have much, but they had one key witness that happens to be the guy that shot him, implicating everybody. And they had video footage that corroborated his sequence of events. So at this point, it's only one thing left to do. It's either guilty or not guilty once it gets into the hands of the jury. And I think at this point, it ain't too surprising what actually happened.
Rerun one in the courtroom to remain quiet. There should be no outburst. And I need you to be silent because the deputy, if you cannot be silent, you need to go outside. With regard to David Jared Booker, if you would please stand. McCray. State of Georgia versus David Jared Booker, indictment number 22B4072-4. Count 1, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 2, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 3, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 4, aggravated assault. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 5, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 6, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 7, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 8, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 9, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 10, hijacking a motor vehicle. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 11, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 12, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 13, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 14, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 15, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Mr. Collins, if you'll please stand. State of Georgia versus Miles Collins, indictment number 22B 4072-4. Count 1, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 2, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 3, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 4, aggravated assault. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 5, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 6, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 7, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 8, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 9, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 10, hijacking a motor vehicle. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 11, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 12, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 13, possession of firearm during the commission of a felony. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 14, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 15, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Mr. Hewley, please stand. State of Georgia versus Josiah Hewley Jr., indictment number 22B 4072-4. Count 1, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 2, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 3, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 4, aggravated assault. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 5, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 6, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 7, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 8, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 9, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 10, hijacking a motor vehicle. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 11, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 12, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 13, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 14, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 15, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Anything from the defense? Okay. All right. All right. Are we seated in number? No. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, if you will just stand when I call your number, if you know your number. Juror number 1. Juror number 1, you heard me read the verdict for Mr. David Booker. Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Juror number 1, you heard me read the verdict against Miles Collins. Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Juror number 1, you heard me read the verdict against Josiah Hewley Jr. Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Okay. Juror number 2. Juror number 2, you heard me read the verdict of David Jared Booker. Was that your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Juror number 2, is it still your verdict? Juror number 2, you heard me read the verdict against Miles Collins. Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Juror number 2, you heard me read the verdict for Josiah Hewley Jr. Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Thank you. Juror number 3. Juror number 3, you heard me read the verdict for David Jared Booker. Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Juror number 3, you heard me read the verdict for Miles Collins. Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Juror number 3, you heard me read the verdict for Josiah Hewley Jr. Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Thank you. Juror number 4. Juror number 4, you heard me read the verdict for David Jared Booker. Was this your verdict in the jury room? Yes. Was it made freely and voluntarily by you? Is it still your verdict? You heard me read the verdict, Miles Collins. Yes. Was this your verdict in the jury room? Yes. Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Yes. Is it still your verdict? Yes. You heard me read the verdict of Josiah Hewley Jr. Yes. Was this your verdict in the jury room? Yes. Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Yes. Is it still your verdict? Yes. Thank you. Juror number 5. Juror number 5, you heard me read the verdict for David Jared Booker. Was this your verdict in the jury room? Yes. Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Yes. Is it still your verdict? Juror number 5, you heard me read the verdict for Miles Collins. Yes. Was this your verdict in the jury room? Yes. Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Juror number 5, you heard me read the verdict for Josiah Hewley Jr. Was this your verdict in the jury room? Yes. Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Yes. Is it still your verdict? Thank you, juror number 5. Juror number 6. Okay. Let me step off the bench and get the, I don't want to call it, you have, okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Can I run on? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Juror number 6 was excused. Juror number 7. Juror number 7, you heard me read the verdict of David Jared Booker. Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? You heard me read the verdict of Miles Collins. Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it made freely and voluntarily by you? Is it still your verdict? Thank you. Juror number 8. Oh, I'm sorry. Juror number 7. I'm sorry. Juror number 7. You heard me read the verdict for Josiah Hewley Jr. Is this the verdict in the jury room? Yes. Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Yes. Is it still your verdict? Thank you. Juror number 8. Juror number 8. Did you hear me read the verdict, David Jared Booker? Yes. Was this your verdict in the jury room? Yes. Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Juror number 8. You heard me read the verdict for Miles Collins. Was this your verdict in the jury room? Yes. Was it made freely and voluntarily by you? Yes. Is it still your verdict? Yes. You heard me read the verdict against Josiah Hewley Jr. Was that your verdict? Was this your verdict in the jury room? Yes. Did you make this freely and voluntarily? Yes. Is it still your verdict? Yes. Thank you. Juror number 9. Juror number 9. Did you hear me read the verdict for David Jared Booker? Was this your verdict in the jury room? Did you make it freely and voluntarily? Is it still your verdict? Juror number 9, did you hear me read the verdict for Miles Collins? Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Juror number 9, did you hear me read the verdict for Josiah Hewley Jr.? Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Juror number 10. Juror number 10, did you hear me read the verdict against David Jared Booker? Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Did you hear me read the verdict against Miles Collins? Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Did you hear me read the verdict against Josiah Hewley Jr.? Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict, juror number 9? Thank you. Juror number 10. Could you have a juror? Thank you. Juror number 11. Juror number 11, you were the foreperson, correct? Did you hear me read the verdict for David Booker? Yes. Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Juror number 11, is it still your verdict? Yes. Juror number 11, did you hear me read the verdict for Miles Collins? Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it made freely and voluntarily by you? Is it still your verdict? Juror number 11, did you hear me read the verdict for Josiah Hewley Jr.? Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Thank you, juror number 11. Alternate number 1, which would be our juror number 12. Yes, we did. I think we did get out of sequence. I'm sorry. Right, so juror number 12, sorry, juror number 6 was excused. Thank you. Juror number 12, did you hear me read the verdict for David Jared Booker?
Yes.
And was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it made freely and voluntarily by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 12, did you hear me read the verdict for Miles Collins?
Yes.
Was it your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 12, did you hear me read the verdict against Josiah Hewley Jr.?
Yes.
Was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
And then I have alternate 1 that was seated. Thank you. Sir, did you hear me read David Jared Booker's verdict? Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Did you hear me read verdict against Miles Collins? Was this a verdict in your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Did you hear me read the verdict against Josiah Hewley Jr.? Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Thank you. Anything else before I release the jury?
Advise them that if they wish, certainly they don't have to, we would be delighted to talk to them if they would wish to, but at the same time, that if they do not wish to talk to us, that is their prerogative, and it is something that Mr. Collins will have to express our appreciation for the response.
Mr. Miller?
Thanks for the second.
Miles Highland, David Booker, Josiah Hughley was in their early 20s when they committed this crime, y'all. And they got found guilty on every count, even the gang-related charges. And they couldn't duck the gang-related charges because they uploaded all their gang activity on social media. They got tattoos affiliating themselves to this blood gang, if you let the prosecutors tell it. And I talked about this yesterday with the O Block trial and the O Block 6, where I didn't notice at the time. I found this out, that it is against the law, if you are in the gang, to put that in your bio. They can charge you federally with just that alone. And these kids is totally unaware, this young generation is totally unaware of the decisions that they're making and the consequences that come with them. Now, I told y'all in my own life, after you get found guilty, you got to get sentenced. And these guys, I'm sure we know, a robbery with a murder equals life in prison. But Josiah Hughley, got to keep coming back to him, because Josiah Hughley thought that he was going to be able to talk his way out of it because Bradley Coleman supposed to be reaching for a gun. But what he didn't understand is, in that situation, Bradley Coleman was totally justified if he would reach for the gun and got a chance to shoot one of them guys, because it would have been self-defense in his case. You can't engage in the situation, at least not in Atlanta. You can't engage in a situation, Georgia, but you can't engage in a situation and then try to play the victim when things go left. No, you was the perpetrator in the beginning, you the perpetrator at the end, no matter how it go. If Bradley Coleman would have killed him, he would have been justified, but they killed Bradley Coleman. There's no justification for that when you was the one that initiated the conflict. But after you get found guilty, like I told y'all, there's sentencing. And a lot of times during sentencing, y'all, because they got victim impact statements, family members like to speak. And I can't blame them. This might be their only time to actually get a chance to talk to these people that took their loved one away from them, so they got to seize it. But what you're going to find out in this next clip is they did seize it. Things did get tense. And ultimately, David Booker, Josiah Hughley, and Miles Highlands got sentenced to life in prison.
Sir, do you swear or affirm that the statement that you're about to give should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes, sir. Thank you. Whatever you'd like to say.
I just want to let y'all know, man, Bradley Coleman, he was somebody, and he still is somebody.
And sir, I'm going to ask you direct it to me
All right.
in the courtroom. Thank you.
Y'all took my brother, my only brother. And it's only the legacy that my brother left that's stopping me from putting hands and feet on all three of y'all. I swear to God, I hate y'all.
Mr. Coleman.
I need you to address what you'd like to see in sentencing, and for everyone.
This.
Look, lock them up and throw away the key. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman.
Family need the closure. We appreciate the closure so we can move forward with the next chapter. This is one chapter now. His legacy and making sure his name live on is the next chapter. And at the end of the day, it's we prayed on this. We gotten it. We just want everything to go for where we can, because we can't visit Bradley where he is. We can pray on it. We all miss him. You know, as y'all see, we here every day.
Right.
And but Judge, as what we're asking for to finish this chapter is to make sure they get exactly what they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Our granddaughter Amira now has to grow up without her father. She cries constantly to me, Your Honor, telling me how much she loved and misses her daddy. She said, Grandma, I was only 5 years old when they took my daddy from me. It's not fair that he's not here with me. She also misses spending time with her daddy. He picked her up from school every single day. He was present in her life. She cherished Daddy and Daughter Day. Every Friday he would pick her up, take her out for ice cream, take her to Target, she loved Target, and do a little shopping and give her special gifts. But now, due to their act of murder, she and Bradley will no longer be able to create memories with each other or share those special days anymore with each other, like Daddy and Daughter dance, her high school and college graduations. Her dad won't be able to walk her down the aisle when she gets married. He won't be able to experience being a grandfather. We will forever miss him, and we love him for all the things that he did in this life and for the things that he would never ever get a chance to do because his life was snatched away from these three individuals.
On behalf of my client, Josiah, he wanted me to tell you how sorry he was. He heard you, he understands you, and he acknowledges your pain. And he's very, very remorseful for where this went on that particular day. Your Honor, life without parole in this case, I understand the state asking for that, and I would also reiterate what Mr. Clegg has said. It seems like, yes, if you have a trial, the ante's always up, whereas it might not have been without a trial. Your Honor, my client, I wanted to point out several things from him. His father is here. He is an over-the-road truck driver. So unfortunately, he had not been able to be here the whole time. My client was 3 months into being 20 years old when this occurred. He is currently 22 years old. As the state pointed out, he did not have any convictions. He had a first offender sentence, which was never taken away by the judge in Fulton County. He had been employed, you heard in his interview. All of it was not shared, but the judge, you've seen the 3-hour interview. He had been working, but due to the company changing locations, he had just been hired that particular day that he was arrested. He did give a statement. He did show remorse in his interview. More than one time he said it was not supposed to go that way. It was not supposed to happen that way.
Mr. Booker? On count 1, felony murder, I am sentencing you to life without the possibility of parole. On count 2, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act, I am sentencing you to 20 years consecutive to count 1. On count 3, I'm sentencing you, which is violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act, to 20 years consecutive to count 2. Then we move down to count 10, hijacking a motor vehicle. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 3. Count 11, violation of Street Gang and Terrorism Prevention Act. I sentence in count 11. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 10. Count 12, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 11. Possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. I sentence you to 5 years consecutive to count 12. Count 14, violation of Street Gang and Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 13. And count 15, I sentence you, which is violation of Street Gang Terrorism Prevention Act, 20 years consecutive to count 14. If the deputies would take Mr. Booker. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, let me go ahead and do that so we can. Mr. David Booker, you've now been convicted of 15 felonies. You've been sentenced on 9 felonies because the other either vacate. There are 6 of them that either vacate by law or merge. I need to inform you that you have a right to seek post-judgment relief from your felony convictions by either filing a direct appeal to a higher appellate court or to file a motion for a new trial. You have 30 days from the date I sign your sentence, which will be today or tomorrow, to file the motion for new trial on any or all of the 9 felony charges. Mr. Lewis, are you going to file a motion for new trial or notice of appeal?
Yes, I'll handle that tomorrow.
Okay. You also have 4 years from the date of your sentence is final to file a habeas corpus petition. I'm going to appoint you an appellate lawyer to handle your case. Your appellate lawyer will explain these processes, but I wanted you to know the legal time frames for which you're required to follow. Mr. Lewis is going to file the 2 motions that are required in 30 days to preserve your rights, and then I will appoint you appellate counsel who will be in touch with you. Anything, Mr. Lewis?
That's it, Judge.
Thank you.
Stepping back.
All right, if you could take Mr. Booker into custody. Mr. Collins, count 1, excuse me. Count 1, which is felony murder, predicate act is aggravated assault. I sentence you to life without the possibility of parole. Count 2, which is violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 1. Count 3, violation of Street Gang and Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 2. Count 10, hijacking motor vehicle. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 3. Count 11, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 10. Count 12, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 11. Possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. I sentence you to 5 years consecutive to count 12. Count 14, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 13. Count 15, which is a violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 14. Mr. Collins, you have now been convicted of 15 felonies, but sentenced to 9 because 6 of them by operation of law either merge into the others or are vacated. I need to inform you you have the right to seek post-judgment relief from your felony convictions by either filing a direct appeal to a higher appellate court or to file a motion for new trial. You have 30 days from the date I sign your sentence, which should be today or tomorrow, to file a motion for new trial to any or all of the felony charges. Mr. Clegg, are you going to file a motion for new trial and a notice of appeal?
I will file a motion for new trial within the next day or so, Your Honor. It will be a bare bones motion, as you well know. I would ask you to then appoint appellate counsel
Certainly.
on Mr. Collins' behalf so that he may preserve all of his possible remedies for appeal.
Certainly. Mr. Collins, you also have 4 years from the date your sentence is final to file a habeas corpus petition. And as Mr. Clegg requested, I will be appointing you an appellate lawyer. Your appellate attorney will explain these processes, but I wanted you to be aware of the time frames. Anything else, Mr. Clegg? Okay, Mr. Collins can go with the deputies.
Hope y'all have.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Family, the family of Mr. Coleman, the family of Mr. Coleman, the family of Mr. Coleman, look at me, the family of Mr. Coleman. Honor Bradley Coleman here. Honor Bradley Coleman. He is never coming back. Nothing that happens in this courtroom is going to bring Bradley Coleman back. Okay. Josiah Hewley. I can't see him. Mr. Hewley, count 1, felony murder. I sentence you to life without the possibility of parole. Count 2, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 1. Count 3, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 2. Count 10, hijacking a motor vehicle. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 3. Count 11, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 10. Count 12, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 11. Count 13, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. I sentence you to 5 years consecutive to count 12. Count 14, violation of Street Gang Terrorism Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 13. Count 15, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 14. Mr. Hewley, you have now been convicted of 15 felonies, 6 of which either merge or vacate as an operation of law, so you'll be sentenced on 9 felonies. I need to inform you that you have the right to seek post-judgment relief from your felony convictions by either filing a direct appeal to a higher appellate court or to file a motion for new trial. You have 30 days from the date I sign and file your sentence with the clerk, which should be tomorrow, to file a motion for new trial to any or all of the felony charges. Ms. Drake, will you be filing a motion for new trial?
Yes, ma'am, and I did explain to my client why my appointment did not, or should not continue on this case, and I would ask the court to appoint an appellate counsel.
Right. Mr. Hewley, as Ms. Drake has probably explained to you, your appellate counsel will review everything, including Ms. Drake's representation of you, to make sure that all your appellate rights are pursued. You also have 4 years from the date your sentence is final with this court, which should be tomorrow, to file a habeas corpus. I will appoint an appellate attorney who will be in contact with you and explain all these procedures to you. You just need to know the time frame, and Ms. Drake is going to file the appropriate motion so that the 30 days does not run.
Your Honor, may I just ask the court's preference if you would like for the attorneys to file motions to withdraw with our motions for new trial, or just...
It's not necessary.
Yes, ma'am.
It's not necessary. I'll just appoint appellate counsel, probably tomorrow. Actually, I think I have to wait until you file the motion to appoint them. So it won't be tomorrow, but Mr. Hewley, I will appoint you appellate counsel. Thank you. You can go with the deputies.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Drake.
Y'all, this is a situation, y'all, where nobody wins. Nobody wins in this situation. Because though Bradley Coleman family is satisfied with what happened at court, you got 3 other families that's sad about what happened at court, you know. But everybody got to live with it. You heard the judge. Bradley Coleman ain't coming back. I think that was harsh, but that's real. That's the reality of it. And I know there's frustration, but taking your frustration out on them, it might feel better for the moment, but it's not going to change the circumstances. Now you got the family of the 3 killers. Is now, just like I always tell y'all, when you lock up people, you lock up the whole family. You got 3 other families that's going to be arrested, at least until they die off. These 3 young kids, because that's what I call them, kids, 21, 22, they still young. They are never going to see the streets again. And at 21 years old, it's going to come a time where they spent more time in a penitentiary system than they actually spent on the streets. But this is what happens when you want to be a gangster. This is what happens when you want to be a drill rapper. This is what happens when you want to be a driller. It's consequences and repercussions for all your actions. You got to be able to stand on them, no matter how it go. But a lot of these situations are avoidable. Nobody told y'all to go out robbing that day. That was a decision them 3 got together and made. Nobody told y'all to kill this man. If the robbery went bad and he wasn't trying to give it up, back away. Go back to the car. But what happens is there's no plan B. There's no exit plan. It's only plan A, because the untrained, ignorant mind only think about is go. And when go don't work, you have situations like this where an innocent man was murdered just trying to visit family members in Georgia. But I done hear from y'all, man. Like I said, I know this was a long video, but I think this video was important to establish what's going on right now in society, y'all, with this drill culture and these young kids out here crashing out all over the place. They crashing out all over the place. They killing and getting sentenced to life in prison, and it's happening in the black community, so we losing all the way around the board. Like I told you, nobody wins in this situation. Nobody wins. And you heard one of the kids say, I hope y'all satisfied. The family is satisfied. You seen Josiah Hughley looking at his defense attorney in disgust, or I can't say disgust. He just, you know, you gotta live with your decision making. You know what I mean? You can't be mad now. Don't cry now. Don't cry. Ain't no, what you mean? What you crying for? What you upset for? This would come along with it. But what happens in the drill culture is they don't talk about this. It's all drilling, killing. They don't talk about what happens once you get caught. And once these kids get wrapped up into that mentality, that's all they see. They don't see this part. So that's why I think it was important to show this part, because this is the reality of becoming a drill rapper. This is the reality of being a gangster. This is the reality of being a killer. Once you decide to take a life, the court can now take your life and be justified in doing it. But let me know how y'all feel about this in the comments. It's another day of Keep It G News, and I'm out.